Welcome back to those of you that follow this channel. Today I'm going to be talking a little bit more about Path of Exile 2 and kind of going to complain today about some nitpicky stuff that now I've run into after 30-ish hours over the past week of playing the game. So I know other people out there are basically professional streamers. I am not that, so bear with me. I am not a professional Path of Exile build maker. I really couldn't get into Path of Exile 1 personally very deeply. I played a few hundred hours of it over 12 years or so. But I was able to beat the game. I enjoyed many aspects of the game, but I didn't stick around for very long. Now, I have been excited about, and if you've seen my other video, very excited about certain pieces of Path of Exile 2. And I have come to learn that many of those pieces feel incomplete or designed entirely against my expectations. So let's get into it. While we get into it, I'm going to show you this character. I'm like level 3. Yeah, level 3 warrior here. Mr. Bob Johnson. Oh, wait. So I am a warrior. We've got some basic skill tree here. If you haven't played much of the warrior yet, it so far kind of feels pretty bad. So I did take these first 2 nodes just for some damage and armor. The armor is huge because this is all I got. So that basically doubles my armor. So I'm going to play through the game as I talk. We'll see how this goes.
Insect.
And I will probably switch back and forth between the overlay and the not overlay map. So first of all, some of the default skills just don't feel very great, in my opinion, on the warrior. This whole flip over thing just feels completely unnecessary, but that's beside the point. That's not really why I'm here. Why I'm really here is I want to talk about this mechanic. Dodge rolls. Dodge rolls, dodge rolls, dodge rolls, and more dodge rolls. As soon as I saw that they added dodge rolls, I was skeptical. They made them feel decent. In my first video, I kind of commented that I feel like they're out of place unless they fit the character's theme. So, a warrior doesn't make sense to me as dodge rolling. I know it's in Dark Souls. I love Dark Souls, and I really do. Dark Souls 1 is my favorite, so take that for what you will of my comments here. I don't like dodge rolls in this game. I have grown less and less fond of them, and here's why. Core mechanics define any game that they're in. So, for example, I play Hades. I've played other games like Bastion on this channel and Secrets of Grindia. And they have things like shielding and movement abilities, various forms of iframes or protection spells. Well, they kind of fit those games because the game respects the game itself with its own mechanics. I feel like this game only respects one mechanic. Dodge rolls. So, let's look at something. Here is my... where is it? Block chance. Where's my block chance? There. Chance to block incoming strikes and projectiles, causing them to deal no damage. So, works like Path of Exile 1 or Diablo 2 if you're familiar with that instead. Some larger and more dangerous enemy attacks cannot be blocked at all, as well as any form of status effects from the block hit will not be blocked. Furthermore, it says some skills, but many skills by bosses cannot be blocked, and these are indicated by a red glow and an audio cue during the windup of the skill. As well, based on comments from the developers, probably specifically Jonathan, anything that is above you or below you, ground effects or like lightning strikes from above, these are also unblockable. Now, I understand there's some realism being implemented here, and I fully understand certain things like ground effects not being blockable, that kind of... it doesn't fully make sense, but it sometimes works in certain games. For example, I felt like it worked in stuff like Spiral Knights, which I mentioned in my last video. But in Spiral Knights, you can't even unequip a shield. So you're always with a shield. So that kind of makes sense that it's part of your kit. It is a core mechanic. And core mechanics, like I said, they define a game, but they also control a game's design. Dodge roll is not very useful for actual mobility. It will allow you to move quickly through an attack, giving you a very small iframe. It will collide very ugly into walls and geometry. So if you can't read the floor, sometimes there are things on the floor you can step on, and sometimes there are things you can't step on. You can't step on it, you can't roll through it, and so you can get stuck on geometry a lot of the time with the dodge rolls. Here's the first non-tutorial boss here. And I'll probably die to him, I'll be honest. I have not been able to keep up with a lot of the feeling of the melee here combat yet. And he's got poison on the ground. It's actually slightly hard to see based on the lighting. If you're standing right in it, it's not bad, but anyways. So there's a lot of boss mechanics, and I forget if this boss specifically has one or not, where you are basically intended to dodge roll constantly. To dodge specific attacks that are often kind of line-based skill shots and close-up swipes. And I can block, you know. It builds up your stagger bar. So if you do block too much, you will... I'm going to show this off here. Yeah, I get knocked back. It's not that big of a deal, honestly. Probably should do damage, but, you know, whatever. Because dodge roll is such a core mechanic in this game, I think it has taken control of the design of almost every boss. To the point that it is detrimental to the experience of the game, at least for me. So, I don't know. And I know I'm not alone in a lot of this. I know some other people have been kind of changing their opinions on some of this. But I think one of the things that makes dodge roll so clunky, it's not going to change my opinion on dodge roll directly, is that a lot of things have collision. And so moving into them feels like moving into geometry, and your character will push and move and ebb and flow around them. And same thing with dodge rolls. You don't phase through things, which is fine. I actually don't like what they did with dodge roll in the first major patch, patch D here. You can move through basically small enemies now. And if you're going to have body block in the game and dodge roll, I don't know. I don't think that dodge roll should be even more powerful, but that's just me. I think that a lot of enemies do too much damage, though. Not all enemies, but stuff like these maggots. Probably, you know, stuff like that. They just do a lot of damage. Just because there's so many of them, they can do quite a bit with their surrounds. And I like the danger of this game. I'm not saying make the game easier, but I am trying to come at this with more of a universal... Ow, I was not paying attention. It's hard to talk and do this at the same time. I'm trying to talk about this game in a more, how to say, universal or open conversation of all games. You know, game mechanics in general. So one of the things that I think that the dodge roll definitely causes is that there's these one-shots from bosses. A lot of them aren't really one-shots, but they're like 90% of your health at that level. I have no health regen. I have no potions. And everything is made to kill me in melee. really not fun. I'll be honest. There we go. So, let's resurrect a checkpoint and take a second. So I think one-shot bosses where they have 1,000,000 health, for one. Every boss seems to have 1,000,000 health. I feel like I'm not making progress a lot of the time when I'm hitting bosses. And like I said, I don't really want to make the game easier, per se, but I just feel like some aspects of it are just sloggy. They don't feel great. And one of them is, bosses can one-shot you, but you have to take 15 minutes to kill them. And even in Dark Souls, bosses don't take that long. They just don't. You might die really quickly to a boss in Dark Souls, but they're typically not one-shotting you in New Game. Maybe New Game Plus, but not New Game. So I think a lot of that just feels like it takes away from something. Let's just point out my health here. This character has 82 life and 16 shield. I have no regeneration, and I ran out of health potions in that fight. Obviously, I'm not fully paying attention. That's part of the problem of recording these live. Recording these in action. But you gave us all these one-shot mechanics and said, here's a dodge roll, dodge them. Well, what else can I do? Can I get movement speed? Well, I have a character that's like level 33. You know, at the end of Act 2, I died to the Act 2 boss once and took a break last night. And that character has no movement speed. And I'll be honest, characters in this game feel like they move slower than Diablo 1. Seriously. They feel slower than Diablo 1. And that's a slow game. Now, I'm not saying make it Path of Exile 1. I'm not saying make them run like Diablo 2. But everything just feels so tedious. You never feel... Well, I do feel powerful. But a lot of the time, I don't feel powerful. And the time to kill until you feel powerful is garbage. Like, that enemy right there is a white enemy. It's a bigger enemy. How many hits was that? 7? 6? I don't know. But then they gave us blocking, and this is something I was really excited for, and I didn't want to make a character right away about it because I just wanted to feel the game first. So I made this character yesterday, I think, just to get him to level 2 and just kind of mess around with some blocking. You have active block, and there you go. You know, it's cool. And so I've got, 26% chance to block. Basic mechanic. It doesn't go up with, say, dexterity or anything like that. Like, Diablo 2 Lord of Destruction makes it go up with dexterity. But you can't make it go up with skills in the skill tree. One of these. There it is. Increased block chance, things like that. However, on release, apparently, and this is just an EA bug, on release, blocks didn't work from behind you even when they were passive. That feels bad. But they fixed that. They fixed that. So, good on them. I agree with that change. Fully, 100%. Then, blocks can't block anything from above, below, or 1/3 of all boss attacks. So, why am I using a shield? You're trying to make it more action-y, but then you're making it so that that action doesn't matter. That feels bad. As a player, that feels bad. It feels insulting, actually. I'll go farther. It feels mildly insulting. Because you're saying that I'm not trusted to actually use the shield mechanic because I'm probably going to abuse it, or you can't balance it. But apparently you can balance dodge rolls, right? Because that's what you build every boss around. Anyways, I'm not salty. Yes, I am. I don't like dodge rolls in every single game, ever. And that's where we're at right now with a lot of games. It needs to stop. Please make it stop. Anyways. So I'm going to get off the topic of one-shots and bosses and all this other stuff. Yeah, they're spongy. Visual clarity. Everything is brown. Everything is shiny. And I know some other YouTuber, streamer type people. Ow. Have talked about visual clarity. It is hard to see a lot of abilities. It is hard to react to abilities, even if you are dodge rolling or shielding or whatever else. Some abilities are a little more telegraphed than others, but a lot of abilities also take a lot of animation time. So if I use this ability, I can cancel it halfway through, which is great, with a dodge roll. Okay, I can cancel it with a shield. Okay, cool. But that also comes with some other issues that I've noticed with other characters, my sorceress specifically. Oh, come on. I'm terrible at this game, I will admit. I'm melee. I can't get up on him. Because all he wants to do is pummel my face and put poison on the ground and body block me with his tail. It's just miserable. This is not fun. Melee is not fun here. Okay, his poison is finally gone. Let's go to the backside. Maybe we'll be able to get some hits in here. Okay. Ah, he's gonna be gone. Anyways. So naturally, that makes sense not to be blockable. It is telegraphed and it is a ground effect. He's exploding from the ground. I understand that. That's fair. But blocking just feels bad. And it feels bad to invest in something that on 1/3 to maybe even half of the attacks in the game and all status effects apparently, because blocking apparently can't block status effects. For some reason. At least by default. I don't know if there's a skill somewhere that enables that. Health feels weird. That's my next comment. Health feels weird. You know, there's visual clarity issues all over the place. I'm sure other people are going to talk about that way more than me. I'm more about mechanics, I guess. So I'll pass on talking about that too much. Health feels weird. Whether it be energy shield, evasion, whatever. With all these various high damage hits, I honestly, I just give up on this character. I'm gonna have to like level into level 4 before I can take the basic boss here, which is fine. I'm okay with backtracking here and there, but on HP, on life in the game, I remember the devs, or I swear I do remember the devs saying this, that stats. Okay, I'll get off that screen. That stats were gonna matter more. That how you used your tree were gonna matter more. And so you had this ability, and I love this ability to have the different stats here, right? You don't have to worry about wasting your travel nodes on intelligence as a warrior, which is cool. You can choose to be, my other character is actually a strength mage, where I'm wearing heavy armor and boosting up strength and life, and not using energy shield. Which has actually worked out pretty well. I'm actually enjoying that. But the idea that you were going to have to rely on strength for more of your health. So one of the things that that I'm noticing is you're gaining more health from level ups than probably any other resource. And then you're gaining more health from items. And I totally am focusing health on my items. You know, it's either health or armor or energy shield or something like that. I want that health, and naturally you're gonna slowly fill in your resistances too. But there's no more melee damage on strength, and these nodes used to be 10, and now they're 5. And I understand the idea. Some of this is inspired by Ruthless League, and that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. But you need to give us more tools, not necessarily more power. And you told us, sort of, at least by my memory, you told us that you were going to give us the advantage of these stat importances, and I'm not feeling it. I'm just not feeling that strength is actually that important for health, because I'm getting 170 health on my other character. I'm getting 170 health from my gear. Some of that is from strength, some of that is from bonus to life. And then I'm also gaining life from levels. So the formula, per the wiki that I found, is that in Path of Exile 2, your life is a base of 78. Now, it looks like every character starts with a bare minimum of something like 7 strength or something like that. So, yeah, that looks right. So, I don't know. I don't know what the actual base health is, but everyone starts around 78 health plus 2 per strength, and then whatever you can get on the skill tree. There's a couple nodes that give, somewhere in here, there's a couple nodes that give actual health, but they're few and far between because they wrapped that up into strength, right? That was the point of removing all those health nodes, was to give us more power in our stats and how we built our characters based on those stats. But I don't feel that. So yeah, it feels like it's coming entirely from level ups and from gear, where about 170 is from gear. I think 400 is from 300 or 400 is from stats. And then my character has like 58 strength or something. It's split between intelligence and strength, but it's 58 strength. And so I'm getting 116 health. And it doesn't seem to matter. You go into a boss room, it doesn't matter because you're going to get one shot anyways. Unless you have an extremely good gear and it's much more late game. I've noticed this at least. The farther I get, the better the game plays. Sort of. Most of the time. So enemies are becoming 2-shot and 3-shot instead of 7-shot, which, 3-shot feels pretty good. 3 and 4-shot feels pretty good in my opinion. But 7-shot feels terrible. I mean, that's almost double. But you've made my health feel completely useless. And then it goes farther because everything's so... honestly, a lot of things are really hard to read. It's just very cluttery and kind of same colory palette stuff. And then on top of that, I got the trials a couple days ago. The first trial in Act 2. And what does it do? Oh, it ignores your health, sort of. See, it gives you honor based on the combination of your health and your energy shield. And then it says you die immediately if you lose your honor. So it doesn't matter what your health, energy shield really are. In essence, it matters that over the course of the gameplay, you lose your honor and you die. And so it really detracts from build variety in that fashion. If I'm an agility hero, dexterity in this game, but you get the idea. If I'm a dexterity hero and I'm focused on evasion and accuracy and not getting hit, okay, it makes sense to kind of rely on a dodge roll. It makes sense to rely on passive evasion. But I'm going to have low health. So anything that can't be evaded, which I'm going to assume is anything that can't be blocked for the most part, is going to just destroy your honor suddenly out of nowhere. Which kind of sucks. And it means that to get through the trials, you're really encouraged to just stack health, but then not use it. It doesn't matter if you have good regen, because it's not a combat mechanic. If you're a regen-focused character, yeah, you might have lots of health, but you also might not. And so it destroys variety. And this is just a perception from an outsider testing out this game in early access. I am definitely still having fun, but these are still nitpicks. So the trial sucks because primarily of honor. I enjoyed some other aspects of that. I will say that on trials and visual clutter together, I had a situation where I did my first trial and I got to a death crystal room. Now, I understood how death crystal rooms worked because I had done one prior to that room. It was one of my first rooms, and it was my very, very last room. I think it was like room 2 and room 7 or whatever. So I knew how it worked, right? That wasn't the issue. I had enemies spawn near the crystal, and they followed me into the crystal, and they were snakes. So they emerged basically right behind the crystal. And when I clicked the crystal, I also then attacked them. So I attacked, and then I clicked, and then I attacked again because I'm trying to move quickly because it's like the second crystal in the room, and you have like 6 seconds to get to that first one, and then like 12 seconds or 13 seconds to get to the next one. And the faster you go, eventually you just have like a minute basically to get to the last one, because it's not actually that hard of a challenge when you're doing it for the first time. It's like level 22 for that first coin that you turn in for the quest. I couldn't see where the crystal little dust trail thing went. I had overlay map open. I had lightning spells going. I had my character standing on top of the crystal. I had enemies standing behind the crystal. And apparently the crystal did the little zigzag dust trail thing kind of northeast. And I couldn't see it, and I had no idea where to go. So I died. Basically, I died. Because as soon as that timer hits 0, you lose, what is it, like 95% of your health? And in the process, you also lose 95% of your honor. Now, I entered that room with 100% honor because it's really... honor system sucks, but it also isn't too crazy to manage, at least at that level. I was also over-leveled for the trial. It is what it is. I went down to 4 honor. 4. Which means I cannot get hit by anything. The next room is the boss room. I actually got through 50% of the boss's health before eventually that room sucks. There is round effects everywhere, and they don't do any damage. That's not the issue. They don't do any damage. They just destroy your honor. So as soon as I got hit by some random ground effect that's hard to see, hitboxes are impossible to guess on, and it's tiny little Diablo 2 druid volcanoes basically in that room, and it's hard to see anything. But it actually was one of the zigzag lava flows, and it actually went straight out and then turned 90 degrees and hit me immediately. No response time. But anyways, I digress. I'm not salty about the game being hard. I am, however, an older gamer shaking his fist at games trying to be something they probably shouldn't be. And I feel like this game, I like some aspects of trying to make it more action-y, like shields and active dodge on their own. But when they take control of the entire game, I'd be saying this if the shields did this too. Obviously, the shields aren't doing this at this moment, as far as I can tell. But dodge roll, everywhere. Visual clutter, constant. Damage on the ground, constant. The honor system, why? Just why? But I also want to talk about drops in scarcity. This video has gone longer than I expected, and I couldn't beat the boss at all. That kind of sucks. Feel bad. But drops in scarcity. I'm an older gamer. I grew up with Diablo 1 and Diablo 2. Now, I didn't grow up with classic Diablo 2. I played that later on in my life, and I don't necessarily love version 1.0 where you couldn't buy mana potions or anything like that in Diablo 2. But I did like older versions of Diablo 2, particularly patch 8 and 9, where things were a little bit slower and health was not crazy, and you didn't have to hyper-focus a build just to function. And Diablo 1 is definitely one of my favorite games of all time. Now, Diablo 2, I have thousands of hours in, and I love it. And I understand the devs love Diablo 2. This entire series is a love letter to Diablo 2. I'm not blaming the devs. I'm not telling them, you're lazy, you're bad. It's not what I'm here talking about. But people are complaining about drops. And I think one of the feelings that I am getting from drops is there should be less drops, but they should be good quality. I am not seeing that. And I don't mean rares. I mean actually good drops. I don't mind the crafting system. I know some people are like, oh, it's just this 1, 2, 3, 4, and you can stop anywhere in the system. Yeah, it's easy. I'm an outsider. I actually like it, but I'm probably not going to stick around. So maybe it does need to be changed. I don't care if it gets changed. It doesn't really matter. But it took me 22 hours to find a unique item. I was level 25, and I got a level 6 item that I could potentially wear. It was a set of gloves that splits all elemental damage that you deal into thirds, and so you're always dealing all 3 elements at all times, no matter what skills you use. And I can see how that could be a very interesting glove to wear. But it only gives 6 energy shield. And it gave, I don't even think it gave resistances. So I'm struggling to survive as it is. This glove is really unique, but it's not helpful. I can't use it. Not really. I'm not going to sacrifice my 80 armor, 20 health gloves and 18% fire resistance or whatever I got. I think it's something close to that on my gloves just to have that mechanic. The gloves, they're cool. I'm not saying the gloves are uncool. But the problem was it took me 22 hours to find gloves that I was unimpressed by. Because even if they fit my build, they would probably hurt me. I did find another unique item within 90 minutes of that. But I'm going to lean on some other Diablo likes, namely Diablo 1. In Diablo 1, enemies can only drop one item, and I truly mean one item. They can drop gold, they can drop gear, they can drop a scroll, they can drop a potion, and they can drop books. And I think that covers everything. Now, they could only drop one thing, so it would just go down the list. Is it gear? Is it a book? Is it a scroll? Is it a potion? Is it gold? Something like that. I don't know what the order is. I'd have to look that up, but it's something close to that. I like Diablo 1 because items are scarce and because items are powerful. And I am definitely seeing some items be powerful, but when one item is seemingly really powerful and another item is absolute garbage, it's hard to deal with that a little bit when you get unlucky. And I understand that you're supposed to be using your gold to shop. You're supposed to be using your salvaging and disenchanting, and I'm disenchanting probably way more than I'm selling. I feel like I have enough gold to do what I need to do, but I'm not seeing anything in the shops anymore at level 30, level 33 or whatever I am, so much. But that's because I've eventually found some decent gear. Now, I'm not asking for every rare to be godly, and I'm not asking for every unique to be overpowered. But I think the game should be dropping uniques more often, not necessarily more rares. And I think uniques, especially of low level, should be dropping in low levels. If I'm level 6 and I get a level 6 unique, I'm probably going to be ecstatic. Even if it's not useful for my build, it probably is pretty good for that level. And that's exciting. It doesn't have to be overpowered. It can just be a pre-baked item. That's how I see uniques, by the way. Is pre-baked items, something custom crafted by the developers. Here is this thing. This is a gift. I have wrapped it up specifically so that you can use it. I like uniques because they're custom crafted. Because, yeah, they've got some variants on them. Maybe they can roll some different numbers. But they're built for something of purpose. They're unique. They live up to that original title from Diablo 1 and Diablo 2. But I do think drops can be better. I'm getting a lot of junk. I am getting a lot of white items, which is fine because then you can craft. But there is a lot, and I do mean a lot, of item types in this game. And because of that, and this was a problem in Path of Exile 1, in my opinion, because of that, it is somewhat complicated, especially for a newbie. And they've split all the skills across these different items, right? But there's more to come. There's more classes, and there's more weapons, and there's more stuff to happen. And the loot is only going to get more diluted, not less. So, and I don't like smart loot. I really don't like smart loot. Please don't custom craft the loot drops for me, unless you give me some kind of control over that. Dedicated farming, some kind of world modifier. Don't make smart loot that thinks for me. It's not smart, it's just you're making it for me. That's different. But I love the dark feeling of Diablo. I love the starvation mechanics, so to say, of not having a lot of loot. But when I do get loot, I really want it to be good, and I want it to feel good, and I feel like a lot of loot is not feeling good, and it just... There's a bunch of feel-bad moments clustered into feel-good moments in here, and it's not Dark Souls you died. I don't care that I died 7 times to the dude with the guillotine. I don't care. That does not bother me. I've played the Dark Souls series. I don't care that I died. Because there's checkpoints right there. The worst part of death is walk back, and the walk back here is fine. What I care about is the fact that a lot of the deaths are one-shots that feel unavoidable because I'm mid-animation. Or because I rolled 0.01 seconds too late or too soon. Or in one of the situations with the guillotine guy, I don't remember what his name is, the executioner, something. And he dropped a guillotine and I rolled away from it. But guess what? I collided with something and I didn't go anywhere, so it just killed me. And it was just geometry that I couldn't see. Or I couldn't quite see it, so I rolled into it and it didn't take me anywhere. So, there's just a bunch of little nitpicky things, and I'm sure that the developers are very aware of a lot of these things. But this is Game Mechanics Channel, so I just wanted to talk about some things that I've noticed, why I feel that there are problems with this game. But I'm still having more fun in Path of Exile 2 than I did Path of Exile 1. But it's also a lot of time. And maps are probably a little too big. Something else I want to touch on, it's not in my notes here, but I wanted to touch on this as well. I feel like the experience and the progression should be relatively in sync unless you're super, super rare unlucky, that you should be able to clear... If you're full clearing every single dungeon, you should probably never fall behind in your gem levels, your need for support gems, your itemization. You should have enough gold, enough crafting materials, enough gems, and enough levels to 95+% of the time always be moving forward, without feeling like you're hitting a brick wall or dealing with something that you shouldn't be dealing with. And I have definitely backtracked and reset locations because I feel like I'm hitting a brick wall. The primary weapon on my main character didn't even come from my own drops. They came from someone else who I've been off and on playing co-op with. Using co-op, we've been doing backtrack between whoever's ahead. Sometimes I'm ahead a little bit, sometimes they're ahead a little bit. So we'll backtrack and do one of the quests that we're behind on because they're story quests. And my friend, he found a staff with, I think it's like 70% bonus spell damage and +2 to lightning skills and then +12 to intelligence. Like, and it's a rare staff. I think it has a 4th or 5th modifier on it. I don't remember what the other ones are. It might be mana. I think it's just mana, max mana. It's not regen. Pretty sure it's not regen. I'd be ecstatic if it was a high amount of regen, but it's usually never a high enough amount when you find it on items. But that changed my entire experience with that character. I was struggling and struggling and struggling to get a good staff. In fact, I was using a crossbow with +2 to projectile skills and then focusing only projectile spells. Because I got more damage out of that crossbow on my spells than I could get out of a 40-50% spell damage staff. So I think there's some itemization issues. I think a lot of it is not just drops being scarce. I think some of it is learning experience. We're still learning the game. We're still learning that you do need to use your crafting materials, and you do need to disenchant basically everything, and you're constantly going back to town to disenchant everything. And I'm kind of okay with most of that, but I still think there is some consistency issues where the difference between finding an armor piece, for example, on my strength mage that's focusing on health. It's a chronomancer focusing on a recoup, by the way. I have no idea if it's going to work, but you know, it's an experimentation. It's fun, and it's working so far. As long as I can survive the first hit, I can usually regenerate all my health. But the difference between picking up a piece of armor that has more armor and more health both, versus picking up a piece of armor that has any other stat or a lower stat, is a constant challenge. So I think my chest piece right now has 32 health on it. Could definitely be higher. If I had 32 health plus some strength, way better, obviously, because it gives more health, but it also gives me more strength. But I think the issue that a lot of players are having, and I've seen this in comments on YouTube and on Reddit, is that the consistency between characters, players, and the overall game population are not consistent. You have one player, which they say their first playthrough, absolutely amazing. They were playing a sorceress or a monk, never a warrior it seems, a sorceress or a monk, and they're playing that character, and they're getting rares all the time. They're getting regal orbs and regal shards all the time, and they are decked out, and the game is easy. And then they log in, they create a new character, because their current character is like level 50, and they want to try another character. And they just have an absolutely horrible time, because they're barely finding blues that matter, let alone rares and regal orbs. Now, their other character seems to have a good seed. And obviously, it averages out eventually, right? Anyways, math, you know, it averages out. But it doesn't feel good when you get run in a game, because if you go 3 hours without finding a rare, it might feel bad. Anyway, my long-windedness aside, I like this game. I encourage, if you have the chance to play it, maybe wait till free to play, but if you have the chance to play it, do so. I'm not going to be sticking around for much longer, probably, for this game, other than to play it casually on my own time. But it is in the news, it is popular right now, and I am a Diablo junkie, so it caught my radar, and I am definitely going to probably talk about it more and more as I continue to play through it for my first playthrough. Until next time, thank you for tuning in. Please like and subscribe if you like these kind of rambling conversations about game mechanics. See you around.